So one day I was playing Super Smash Bros. Ultimate with my family, and suddenly an idea struck me, like a fully charged smash attack to the face. What of Smash Bros, but soup? Welcome to my new series on soups based on Super Smash Bros. Characters, which I'm calling...
Stock Battle!
So we're going to start with the Inklings, not only because they were the character I was most excited for when Smash Ultimate was first announced. It's also really easy to pick a soup for them. This place, it's called Booyah-Base. 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 Get it? This soup is a bit of a project, so we're going to break it down into stages. This is the first stage.
Stock!
For our
Stock!
we're going to need 6 cups of fish broth, or fish stock, or fish juice, or dashi, or whatever you have on hand that's liquid and fishy. And then we're also going to need half a teaspoon of black peppercorns, and 4 bay leaves. Then we're going to need whatever fish and shellfish parts you have lying around. What I actually have here are shrimp shells and trout spines. And then we are going to need 8 ounces of squid tubes cut into rings. Oh, whoops, I better go cut these.
Ready? Go!
Add all the stock ingredients to a pot over medium heat. Once the mixture has reached a simmer, cook for 25 minutes. The reason we're adding the squid now is to make sure that it ends up tender in the final product. Squid is either tender when you cook it really quick and fast, think calamari, or when you cook it long and slow. Because soup is something that tends to sit out a bit and tends to be leftovers, I think it's best to cook it long so it's tender and doesn't end up as an Inkling rubber band later on. Once the stock has cooked long enough, strain it, saving the pieces of squid, because those are still good. Yeah, like that piece right there. For stage 2 of our Booyah-Base, we will be making 2 different Rui, one for each of the 2 Squid Sisters. For Callie, we'll be making a red traditional Rui, and for Marie, we shall be making a green one. And so, in common, they both need half of a cup of olive oil, 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt, and a teaspoon of lemon juice. Both of the bell peppers are going to get blistered, either on the stovetop or under the broiler. I'll be doing it under the broiler. And Callie uses 1 small red chili, while Marie is going to use 1 jalapeno. And unlike the small red chili, we are also going to blister this jalapeno. They both also use 3 cloves of garlic. Callie's have already been peeled and will be going into the Rui raw. Marie's still have the skin on and will be roasted along with the peppers and then be added in once cooked. They're both served on some nice crusty bread. If you want to be really fancy, you can make a Gigabyte TV sourdough, but my starter died around last week. So, we're going with this. And so, first thing we need to do is blister the peppers. Sorry, ladies. Roast the bell peppers, 3 cloves of garlic, and jalapeno under a broiler or over a flame until blackened on all sides. Like this. It's making a squeaky sound. Once your peppers are done roasting, put them in another container. Hopefully one that's big enough. Oops. Including the jalapeno. And cover with a layer of cling wrap, or plastic wrap, or whatever you want to call it. Or you could use a towel, but I feel like this causes a better seal. And then allow these to self-steam for 5 minutes. Once the garlic has cooled, you can peel it, and take way too long peeling things on camera, and set it aside for Marie Rui. For the chili peppers, what we want to do is remove all of that skin, along with the stems, of course, the seeds, and if you're like me, all the membranes you can get, because I don't like how they taste. So you could peel it this way, but that's kind of long and tedious. The other way that I've been taught, give me a moment, is that if they're properly roasted, you could rub them with a towel in order to get all that skin off. But it's one of those things where, like, I know how it should work. I've tried it, but I can never get it done quite as right as I want it to. You know what, actually, apparently I shouldn't doubt myself, because that's coming off pretty well. And you want to get off as much as you can, because it's kind of A, burnt, and B, the texture isn't good when it ends up in the final rust. Next up is lean, mean, and green. It's the green bell pepper. I was actually thinking, while I've been filming this, the red Rui, it's basically French for rust, right? Because it's kind of that oxidized brown color. But for the green one, the only rust I can think of that's green is when copper oxidizes. That's not like the general ferrous oxide rust color of the red one. So should we call this one like the copper Rui, or the emerald Rui, or the Mike should have just used the towel he was just talking about Rui? The oops, I didn't cook that side enough Rui? Again, I keep on forgetting to do the thing I talked about. So now it's time to stem and seed everything. You know, I've never used this actual pepper before, whatever this kind is. So we'll see how it turns out. I didn't do a good enough job, so I apologize. That didn't get stemmed well at all. Perfect. Yeah, so you want to get rid of all that. It's not good to the taste. I mean, it's not gonna kill you or anything. But someone like me, I'm very particular about my peppers because I don't tend to like them. You just get in there with your hands. Nothing can really replicate what human hands can do. I mean, a seed or two is not gonna kill anyone. Add the salt, peppers, garlic, lemon juice, and pulse. While blending, slowly drizzle in the oil. When smooth, spread on toast and set aside. It's time for soup! So in addition to our 6 cups of fortified fish broth, we need 2 tablespoons of olive oil, salt to taste, 1 medium onion, 3/4 of a cup of fennel bulb, and these both are getting chopped, 1/2 of a cup of white wine, 1/4 of a cup of parsley, 1 14.5 ounce can of tomatoes, which also get chopped, and 1/8 of a teaspoon of turmeric, or a couple of saffron threads, if you have the money to spare. I don't. 1/4 of a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, or chili powder, or even hot smoked paprika, 2 garlic cloves, and then in addition to our cooked squid that we saved from the broth, we need 8 clams, which have been scrubbed clean, 12 shrimp, and this is where you could get some of the shells for fortifying the broth, and 8 ounces of catfish fillet, which we need to cut into about 1-inch pieces. First thing we need to do is crush these 2 cloves of garlic. Something I'm very bad at. You can either do it this way, or you can have fun and just kind of go. Yeah, that was... Maybe that was a little too crushed, but I'll deal with it. There. And that's how you crush garlic, I guess. Now let's get to the other stuff we have to chop. The onion. This onion is actually a little big, so I'm only going to be using like half of it. The bigger half. And I can decently do most things in the kitchen, except maybe clean up. You know that joke in SpongeBob where they're like, who left this bowl of onions here? Well, the bowl of onions thing actually really does bother your eyes. Alright, for our fennel bulb, we're only using the bulb part. And about 3/4 of a cup. This looks like a little too much actually, so let's pare it down a little more. Chop this up just like you would an onion. Our parsley's next. Tomatoes. And the last thing we need to chop is the catfish. See, I like going by strips. I do not think I'd like to see a catfish strip. I think, isn't it catfish that have the most taste buds of any animal? Although if you use the definition of taste bud kind of loosely because it's on its whiskers. That's where they get all of them, and like chickens have like 12 and have the least. But like it's interesting also because that kind of, I guess you call it biological technology, is used in other places. Like the same sensor that you use to taste sweet is used to detect like your blood sugar. And I just think that's neat. Alright, that's the catfish. So we're going to use our 2 tablespoons of oil to saute our fennel and onion. With half a teaspoon of salt. And you do this until they're translucent. It generally takes like 10 minutes. So, I'll see you when they're translucent. Alright, now that they're translucent and even starting to brown a bit, you then deglaze with our half a cup of wine. And then we're going to add in our reserved fish broth and squid. The chopped tomatoes. Along with their juiciness of juices. Our 1/4 of a cup of parsley. Get in there. And 1/8 of a teaspoon of our turmeric, which I'm just gonna have to eyeball, I guess. That seems right. Or your saffron. And our whatever amount of spiciness. I honestly forget. But that seems right. And now we cover this and bring it to a boil. Once the soup hits a boil, we're going to turn down the temperature and maintain a simmer for 15 minutes. No, I'm not going to make you watch the whole time. Our 15-minute simmer is up. So next we add some more salt. About another half a teaspoon. But you can just eyeball it, taste things later. I trust you, it's your food. And then we also add our punched garlic. Oops, missed a piece. And our catfish. So the catfish here is meant to represent the great zapfish, which powers all of Inkopolis. Or I guess in this case, it's mini zapfish since we cut it up. Yeah, so here we go. And now this cooks for another 5 minutes. Now that the fish has boiled for 5 to 7 minutes, I won't tell you what it ended up being. It's time to add the shrimp. The shrimp are here to represent Krusty Sean, who's a merchant in both Splatoon 1 and 2. Plop. That probably wasn't the most elegant way to do that. And the clams. Here we're using clams instead of a more traditional mussel, because the clams are a reference to the Clamblitz mode in Splatoon. So, there you go. Plop, plop. And reduce the heat to low. Now this has to cook on low heat for about 4 minutes, or until all the clams have opened their smiling little faces and revealed their juicy insides. It's chunky. Ta-da! Once the clams are cooked, the soup is done and ready to eat. So, if I had to put into Splatoon terms, I would have to say the flavorful, full-bodied soup covers your splat zones completely in deliciousness. And that the squid inside is really crackin'. Especially in contrast to the nice, firm catfish. And I'd have to say the Rui just kind of tops it off at the end and leaves you satisfied. Just like a last-second ink strike. So overall, I would say this soup is the bomb. The splat bomb. Hey, thanks for watching my first foray into this new series. If you have any ideas for video game related recipes, soup or otherwise, please let me know in the comments. I guess a question for the day is, who's your favorite character in Smash Bros? Who knows, if you're lucky, they might be the next character to get the soup treatment.